It's episode 18 of The Boost with Andrea Brognano, founder and CEO of Achieve with Andrea. Let's go. All right, welcome to The Boost, conversations with people promoting mental health. And this is episode 18. And I'm delighted to be here with Andrea Brognano from Achieve with Andrea. She's the founder and CEO of that organization. She started in 2021. She's got a great story to tell, and we're going to get into it. Andrea, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well. Summer's flying on by as it is for everyone else, I'm sure. But I'm doing really well. How about you?
I am doing fabulous. Yeah, the summer has been, like we haven't taken a summer vacation or anything this year. I've been absolutely focused on shipping this conference that
Mhm.
happens in late September. And you're going to be a part of it. You're talking about how to show up on social authentically, which is, talk about right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You're gonna hit a home run with that presentation. And thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing this show. You have big plans, and we're just
Yeah.
going to roll right into it. I've got some questions for
Yeah.
you, but you're getting married a couple
I
weeks
know.
after the conference, and I'm just so extra grateful that you made time for this event with big life things on the way for you.
It's very funny because everyone keeps telling me like, "How are you doing that?" And if I don't have things in order for the wedding's 2 weeks after the conference. If I don't have it in order, then there's bigger issues at hand. I've been very fortunate because everything's been going nice and smooth. I think I'm a planner by nature. So, it's one day out of my entire lifetime. So it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful, but I'm very focused on the people that are in the room is what's most important to me. So they all have to just show up 2 weeks from that day. That's all I'm worried about. So yeah,
Yeah, you seem like somebody who has it all together, has a good
I try.
organized plan. Yeah, yeah. Not
I try.
perfect.
I
Nobody's
try.
perfect, of course,
Yeah.
but yeah, it seems like you're an organized person. So let's flow into the two questions we always ask all our
Mhm.
guests, which is the virtual hug and the shameless plug. So the virtual hug is tell us somebody or something out there that you're thankful for today.
I feel like on podcasts, I often focus so much on the business side of things. So today I want to shout out my fiance, Jared, because I'm very thankful for him. I think with the wedding coming up, the reason that I'm not so worried about being present 2 weeks before at the conference is I know that he has things handled. I mean, we were sitting doing invitations together, like we handmade them. And I'm very thankful to have him because not everyone has a partner that wants to be involved, and he does. So I'm super thankful because I've been able to be very like cool, calm, and collected because of him, because he has that nature about him. So super, super thankful and grateful for him for sure.
That's awesome. That makes me feel extra pressure to take you away from Jared and your responsibilities for
He'll be
even one
fine.
day. I'm like, we better ship a great conference for Andrea.
He'll be fine. You know what? I feel bad because he's not able to make it. Otherwise, I would have him coming
Oh
like with
yeah,
me to the conference. He's never been to Nashville either, so I'm like, oh, and I go, I go once a year. I love Nashville, so I feel so bad. I'm like, we'll go again next year. Like it's okay.
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
We're gonna run it back next year for sure.
Yeah.
But
I was like, you could come. Yeah.
yeah, I think we got the priorities in order. Yeah, the
Yeah.
wedding. Yeah, he's
For
doing his
sure.
work.
For sure.
Well, what about the shameless plug? I love that virtual hug. The shameless plug is you're the best person to talk about the great work you're
Oh,
doing. And this
thank
show
you.
is about promoting people who are promoting mental health. So, part of the heart of this podcast is just to shine a light on what you're doing, people like you. So,
Mhm.
could you talk a little bit about sort of your entrepreneurial initiatives and, any clinical work or whatever you want to brag on for yourself?
Yeah, I'll go through like a brief bio. So, backgrounds about me: I started my online telehealth practice in August of 2019, not knowing everyone else would join me in 2020 with the pandemic. But when I started it, I started utilizing social media as an outlet of just gaining traction because I knew for myself I wanted to grow not just in my clinical space, but outside of the one to one model too. So I started showing up online. And then people started asking me questions about like, well, how do I use social media and what do I do? And, in school, they teach you not to be on social media as a therapist. So I created Achieve with Andrea, where I have a membership for therapists and coaches to learn how to use social media and how to show up authentically. I think as humans, we overthink a lot. So you don't really need to do that on social media. The algorithm and those that are watching really love seeing people just be authentic online, even if it's so much as, I don't know what I'm doing today, but I'm having coffee. Hope you guys are having a good day, right? It's just about showing up and being human. So in my membership, I kind of teach that part and that aspect. And I send people prompts of what to share on social media for each day. I find trending reel sounds. And I also once a week do like a group coaching call. So I have a membership for that. We also offer in Achieve with Andrea, we offer continuing education courses for therapists. Soon it'll be for social workers too. And then I have some retreats coming up. So some local to me in New Jersey for therapists, but in the future, there'll be a few more throughout the nation. And those that are local to New Jersey, I have a meetup once a month for mental health professionals. So just a few things going on,
just a couple few things. But you had the first mover or early mover advantage in 2019, going virtual or going telehealth. And then, I mean, you were already set up, other people had to scramble and go through even just the change management in their mind to say, oh, is this something I should do? And how am I going to do that? You were already there and rolling.
Yeah, I felt obviously very prepared because we were already online. And, I know we know each other a little well. I never do things by like the standard of what the book of operations is and how people do things. So I had actually started not as a solo practice. I started it as a group practice because I knew I wanted to branch out. So I immediately started as a group practice. So I already had myself and my clinicians already set up and like training for people virtually to set up a virtual practice. I knew kind of how to do that already. So there were a lot of people like, oh, I need to be telehealth, but now how do I tell my clinicians what to do? But I was already there, fortunately.
You were already
there. Yeah.
Yeah. The book has its place,
Yeah. Yep.
I was at a company one time. I'm not going to name any names, but there was this gal who was just having a really hard time fitting into the culture, and she said, "Oh, I read the entire handbook, like the employee handbook," and I thought, if you need to read the entire employee handbook, I don't know. I think
this is where you got,
that's kind of a red flag for me, actually. But yeah, there's some rules. Like there's like what we teach therapists. Stay out of the room, stay off social media, or be a brand on like a personal brand, but nothing more on social. So talk a little bit more about that. Like how is showing up authentic? Where do you break and bend the rules, and how do you kind of make the determination? Because obviously you have to stay in some lanes, but talk a little bit more about that.
There are pieces. So it's very funny because everyone's like, well, did you start like a new Instagram, for example, to be able to like have this personal one and then a professional one? I was like, honestly, I just turned my personal one into my professional one. There's nothing that's on there that I would be afraid for a client to see, because before I'm a clinician, I'm Andrea first. And I understand that when you're in the room with the client, you're there to serve and support them. But I think that there's a piece to it too in now 2023 that some of our clients who are now coming around to understanding it's okay to get mental health, they want to know that they're getting that from a human, right? And not just someone that's sitting there, like sitting and diagnosing and going through things. They want like a human connection too. So when I'm showing up on social, there's pieces of things, sure, that I won't share, but I don't know if I would have otherwise anyway. Like, personal story though, when I did get engaged, I had posted that. And a client brought that up to me in session, and they were like, I saw that you got engaged over the weekends. And I said, oh, and yes, I did. I said, but this session isn't about that. It's about you. I'm here for you. I want to be transparent. Is seeing something like that, is that detrimental to you? This is your session. She was like, oh no, I just want to say congratulations. And then we moved on, right? Like, I think that we just overthink things because we were taught so often that we're not supposed to share pieces of our life, you know?
Yeah,
So,
man, I get into some overthinking loops. I mean,
oh yeah, we
that's
all do.
honestly the truth. You're making me think of a guest I had on early. His name's
Yeah.
Brian Kramer, and he was doing some sort of TED talk or corporate talk,
Okay.
and he put the slide up, and it said something to the effect of, it's not B2B or B2C anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's H to H. It's human to
Mm-hmm.
human. And he
Mm-hmm.
broke down sort of three rules of brands that are the most effective. And
Oh.
one of the rules is imperfection, and so I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's the phrase to err is human. Well,
Yep.
that's true, like humans are imperfect, and if we're
Yep.
expecting some polished version of ourselves, we're going to see through that, like
Oh,
that
a
is,
thousand percent.
especially in today's age where it's so much online. And yeah, you're always kind of making determinations like, oh, I might filter this out, I don't need to put all the laundry out there. That's probably healthy
Right.
also. But you also had the awareness and empathy in the room to say, oh, is this kind of shaking you up, the news about my engagement or whatever, and then you
Yeah.
moved on. So
Yeah, and I think that that's a big piece of it too, right? Like if a client were to ever, call you out or share something that they had seen, it's a matter of bringing it and saying like, how is seeing that going to impact you? Because this session is about you, right? Like reminding the client of that. And more times than not, the client's like, I just wanted to say it was cool what you shared or something like that. Like they really are not thinking that much about it, as much as we're afraid that we're going to like step on toes. They're really, really not thinking that much about it.
yeah, yeah, I'm that way with a conference. Like I give myself a regular reality check. Like this is not about you, and people are not thinking, as much about all the details as you are. And of course, like I want to
Right.
provide a
It's
wonderful
yours. Yeah.
experience. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's an ego
Yeah.
part of that. It's like, well, this reflects on me. It's like, well, probably not.
Right.
People are probably going to come to the conference and listen to the speakers,
Right.
not
Well, no,
me.
they all know that you're throwing it. Not to put the pressure on you, but they all know that you are. But you're honestly, you're doing a beautiful job. There's so many people that are fighting it and like blending so many worlds. Even if we all just spoke to each other, which we're not, there's going to be a ton of audience members. But there's so many worlds that are blending. I think it's, like I said, it's amazing what you're doing. I'm very excited for it.
Thank you. Like a lot of helpers, I try to be a tool or a vessel. Like I try to be empty enough to get myself out of the way to do the work
Mm-hmm.
and to allow the magic to happen. And
Yeah.
you and I were riffing ahead of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's amazing how people have come into my life in the last,
Yeah.
especially the last year. I've been doing this going on 5 years. This will
Yeah.
be my fourth conference, and
Yeah.
that I've been involved in. And man, it's amazing. Just people falling out of the sky into conversations, and people like you. We talked early on,
Yeah.
talked about your CE offering and all that.
Mm-hmm. But
So the
think about it
future
too,
is
like there's
bright
a
there
piece
too.
to that. You and I met because of social media. Like we met, I think you and I had met originally LinkedIn was
How
when
did
we
we
like
meet?
connected.
Yeah, is that it?
Yeah. I think it was LinkedIn that we connected. Someone had tagged me in something that you had, but I think like that goes to show like therapists too, anybody in the mental health space, like it's okay to show up. You never know what's going to come from that. And I think we're all made for more. Not that one-to-one work isn't important, it's crucial, but there's also a bigger piece and a bigger impact that we can also have when we're showing up as ourselves. More people get the educational pieces from us, and it's like I said, it's a bigger impact. You
Totally.
never know who you're going to connect with. You never know.
You never know. Yeah, you just introduced me to a couple of names that are just obvious powerhouses. I'm like, haven't met them yet. Part of it
Right.
is, I'm just one person meeting people, but it is the one-to-one conversations for me that
Mm-hmm.
are incredibly impactful. Like you, yeah, like yours and mine, and then you probably in some way connected me with Gabrielle Giuliano
Yeah.
Villani. So
Amazing. Oh, I
we
love
you
her
could
so much.
you could give us the scoop on her, but she was on the podcast last week, and it's only fitting. It was totally coincidence, but totally fitting that you guys are back to back, because it sounds like
Yeah.
we're fast friends after a retreat, and you still
Yes.
know each other.
Which we found out about that retreat from social media. Like this is what I keep telling everybody. Everyone gets so negative about it, but there's a power to it too if you use it the right way. But yeah, Gab and I had met on a retreat, and I was telling you, we really don't go, it's very rare that we go a day without speaking to one another. She is such a light, she really is incredible at what she does. She's so talented. She's so intuitive. She's just really incredible, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. She was a delight to talk with as well.
Yeah.
So let's focus a little bit on Achieve with Andrea and help listeners sort of fully understand what you're offering and especially like break down sort of your marketing plan or marketing
Yeah.
approach in today's age. What's working well for you? Kind of give us the scaffolding of how you're driving traction and we can kind of go from there.
I think a biggest piece for myself for marketing, primarily for Achieve with Andrea, is the things that I share are educational and like motivational, and it's not always just about what my offerings are. I think that that's super important when you're doing marketing because people then see the value in what it is that you do and know like, oh, they're knowledgeable about this topic. I'm heavy on Instagram because I just love it there because it's easier to post there. It's fun to play around with reels on there. Really important to not overthink reels, like just genuinely have fun with it. I tell people all the time, I mean, today isn't one of those days, but usually I have like a hair washing day of the week is my biggest joke. And those that are in my membership know it. My hair washing day is the same day that I'm filming content and I'll batch create for the week, whatever
Mm-hmm.
that's going to look like. So it's important for me with everything that I have on my plate that I do batch create things and making sure that it's a mix of educational pieces along with once in a while sharing what my offerings are, like my membership. So I teach a lot of the people that are in my membership how to kind of do that and how to stay organized to be able to feel that they could show up because it's really marketing can be a challenge and it can feel daunting and overwhelming. I'm not in denial about that, but I think that it could also be fun if you allow it to be. Get
Yeah.
out there and play around. If you want to just start dabbling with marketing, I think start playing around with it at first to have fun and just get used to what that can look like.
Hmm. Yeah. Yes. One thing that's relieving about that is that a lot of social media or marketing is throwaway now, or,
Mm-hmm.
it's like low
Yep.
quality production, but it builds up over time. So you look back at somebody's Instagram feed, after hundreds of posts and you're like, wow, this person has really done it.
Grew.
But you
Yeah.
don't necessarily go through every post and say, well, does this one resonate with me? Does this one resonate
Right.
with me? You might,
Right.
but it's sort of just the practice of doing it and getting out of our way and not being pressured to feel like an imposter or that my video isn't going to be good enough or my reel isn't going to be polished enough.
Right.
You're saying just ship it, which
Just
is
do it. Just
do
do
the
it.
work, ship it, and then don't think about it. Like just let it go.
Do it. I tell everyone all the time, if you're that scared to show up online, listen, I call them I call them the algorithm monsters because they're the ones that dictate like what does well, what doesn't do well, right? Like we don't all we dictate that because we look at all the content, but like the algorithm monsters decide. What I tell people all the time is the algorithm wants to see your face at places. It doesn't mean that you have to be up and dancing and pointing and doing all those voiceovers. Take a video of yourself, type it on the computer, get that B-roll footage, and then put some overlay over that of important pieces, what is within your niche, right? So if, let's say your niche is trauma, 3 facts about that of you typing on the computer as you're doing research for it, right? Just make it and put it out there. Just put it out there, rip off the band-aid, because then you'll start to notice, oh, it doesn't need to be this overwhelming and this scary.
Yeah. And I love your ratio of, I don't know if you have a specific ratio you follow, but the idea of sharing valuable, educational, entertaining content most of the time. And then, I've heard like 70, 20, 10. Like
Yes, yeah.
70% is simply being a human, sharing interesting things, and 20% is maybe pitching and selling. And then 10% is perhaps engaging in comments, which the algorithm monsters also love to see that
Right.
kind of back and forth.
Yes.
And that gets really sticky. But I think of it as like going to a party, like
Mhm.
if you're the person at the party pitching yourself 100% of the time.
You're going to stay
You're
away.
you're
Yeah.
probably selling insurance or something. And it's not going to lead to like a
Ourselves.
lot of.
Yeah.
Those are very smart people, by the way. It's a very respected
Yes.
profession. But you go
Yeah.
to those like chamber events and it's like, oh, that's
Yes.
not actually what I want to do here is get a
Yep.
pitch or give a pitch. Like most of the time I want to talk about what's something interesting about you and listen to that and rather than, get pitched on whatever.
And more times than not, I mean, I go to the chamber events all the time, but more times than not, I'm always asking about their personal story because hearing that
Yeah.
personal connection and that background of those people, those are the people I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait to buy or purchase or be a customer then because I know they also give back to the community or they do XYZ. Our profession doesn't need to be much different than that, right? Like we're allowed to be people and show up online and tell our story because a client may want to work with us because they know like, oh, that person has had XYZ happen to them so they can relate on a certain level, right? So I
Hmm.
think that's too why I encourage clinicians to show up online. You just never know what that's going to foster, you know?
Yeah, totally. That always reminds me of Aristotle's model of persuasion, which I'm sure you're
Mm-hmm.
familiar with, but it's
Yep.
like, clinicians, they've got logos down pat. Like they've
Right.
got all the logos in the world and ethos. Like they have
Mm-hmm.
a big higher mission, the why that they're going for. So the logos, they have all, everybody's got their letters after their names and
Yep.
respect because you did the work. Like that is the
Right.
foundation. You do
Right.
need that. If you don't have that, then the persuasion drops out pretty quickly. And
Right.
then ethos, like this is a very
Yeah.
heart driven, caring industry
Profession.
generally. So we
Yeah.
have that, but we don't always have pathos, which is like
Mm-hmm.
the human, like the humanity of it all. And other industries struggle with this too. But yeah,
I think
like
it's because we were taught not to. Like in school,
exactly.
we're taught not to, and I'm like, I think it's because we have textbooks that are decades old now, and maybe we need to update them. Someone needs to have a discussion somewhere because this ain't working. you know,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like the more we can, if you look at their websites and things, it's like I don't know, even if you're a human, I'm
right,
sure you
right,
are, but I don't know.
right.
So you've
It's
got
funny
some,
because I tell even like my clinicians that work in my practice, I hire them all like this. It's all over Zoom. Some of them I don't meet in person. Some of them I'm fortunate because I host like events so that we can meet up. But sometimes I never do. But an example I always give is I'm not like the Wizard of Oz on the other side of this like random screen. I'm like, I'm here as your employer. And like, if you have questions in a training that I gave you and I didn't answer it, I didn't do my job. So I want you to know like I'm a human on the other side, right? Like connect with me, ask me things because that's literally what my role is. I can't just be this random figure that you never connect with, And I think it's just bringing the human side into every aspect of the work that we do, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. There's a side of that which I think you've done extremely well. As I was doing my homework, it looks like you've invested in some like fairly high end photo shoots, and you've
Oh
like
yeah.
done a number of those. Like there's a few different looks out there, actually a variety of looks that I can
Mhm.
tell, okay, this isn't all from the same shoot. And there's
Yeah.
something great about that. And I think something that speaks to just how we're wired online when we're looking for validation.
Yeah.
I read a story yesterday about this guy who is running, I think it's a multi-million dollar business.
Okay.
His only employee is his mom, and it's wooden sunglasses. So
Oh.
he had a partner in China, and I guess in this one area of China, like trends hit really early there, and one of them
Okay.
was
Yeah.
wooden sunglasses. And he said, "Oh, these aren't in the States yet." So he brought the concept and the manufacturing and everything, and then what he did is he approached like one of Kim Kardashian's
Yeah.
photographers or something that was going to charge $150,000, and he got it down to $25,000 for
Oh
a
my
photo
God.
shoot of his product, and it just there's a
Took off.
difference.
Yeah.
So as much as like we can throw things online on social media, sometimes it seems like there's also that other aspect which speaks to quality or something. Like
Yeah.
why did you invest in those, I guess is the question. What were you hoping to get out of it?
So I think a big piece, and you're right, a lot of it is different. It's different locations and different styles. I think it's because my work, as I like rambled on about, I do so many different things, and I wanted to like kind of showcase that. I also think that there's a piece to, having a business and having a practice. One thing I always say is like you have to have a website. The first thing that people are doing is they're Googling you. And if your website isn't showing up, we got some things going on. Sure, there's a ton of like other directories that you can be listed on, but like there needs to be some credibility of you owning your own business. You should have a website, right? So I knew that the businesses that I have, I didn't want to just use stock photos. I wanted to use me. And this, my room is in construction mode right now, but there's also a piece to like, there needs to be some professionalism with this. So if I'm going to hire, I work with businesses. Another thing that I do is I work with businesses and I do corporate wellness. So different businesses contract me to do group corporate wellness. If that company is going to reach out, they're going to look at the person who invested in themselves and their business to get professional shoot to look professional versus if I'm just taking the iPhone selfies. So there's a piece to making sure that there's this clean professionalism because that shows more so than if I just were to like do a video or have a conversation here.
Yeah. Yeah, the same things exist, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody told me interesting idea. I want to know what you think about this. We were talking about AI. We were prepping for
Mm-hmm.
this AI debate that we're having,
Yeah.
and he said, when a new technology comes out, it typically sunsets some other kind of technology that's no
Yeah.
longer as relevant.
Relevant.
But he said it also typically brings back from the dead an old technology or an
Huh.
old way of doing things, almost as a counterbalance or a counterlever to the new technology coming on
Huh.
the scene, which I thought was such a fascinating idea.
Yeah. To think about. Yeah.
Yeah, I was tripping out about it. So my mind went like, AI, like it can type for you.
Yep.
So I looked up how much do we type a day? Well, it's 3 hours per person per day. And I
Oh
would
my
hate,
God. That's so much.
yeah, I would hate to do the math, whether that's like texting or work or whatever. It's so many hours a day times
Oh,
all the people in the world. It's like, wow, we're going to save so much time just
yeah.
not typing. Are you using AI for any content creation or, okay,
Oh,
what's
heck
that look like
yes.
for you?
Yeah. So even in my membership, that's one thing that I teach members because they don't, it's very interesting, right? The people that have like jumped on the AI bandwagon versus like, I'll never touch it. But I'm like, if we don't learn to use the things that are out there, then we're going to fall so far behind, I feel, in the world. So I use, as far as like content, I'll use AI when it comes to like giving me ideas for blogging. I won't pull the entire blog because SEO knows that if it's a blog that's been written by AI or not. But I'll use for like the bones or the structure of that. And then when it comes to like writing captions, sometimes if I need help with that, I'll type in, I have a post about, I have a post about my membership. My membership includes XYZ. Give me a brief caption for Instagram that I can use because I want the launch date to be XYZ. I think that's the piece too, is that people don't realize that you have to talk to it like you're talking to a person. Like I think a lot of people miss that part. So I'll use it for something like that. Like if I'm really struggling with a caption or something like that.
Yeah. I had it straight up write me a press release that I pitched to a
Yeah.
business journal, and it totally worked. That
There you
changed my
go.
mindset.
Exactly.
I was like, "Whoa!" It
I
quoted
did. I
me.
had a friend. I had a friend who's he recently became a nurse, and he's like, I'm not touching AI. I said, just sit with me for a second. I said, I understand. I get it. I get it. I said, sit with me for a second. What's something that you would want to know? And I'm not saying for nurses like to go out and just use AI, but there's like some educational pieces behind it too. I'm like, what's something that might happen that you off the bat might not know? And he gave me an example. We typed it in. He's like, wait a second. It can do that. I said,
Yeah,
exactly. I said, if you don't play around and learn, you're just assuming, that it's going to be this monster thing. I was like, play around with it, learn it before you just say no. Yeah. It
Yeah.
can be a powerful tool. You just have to know how to use it and revamp it when you need to for your work.
You did have an interesting Freudian slip a bit ago. You were saying bandwagon, and you said badwagon, which
The bandwagon.
I think we all have that in the back of our head. Like,
I
is this a
know.
wagon to
Because
hell that we're all jumping on?
it's a still scary thing. It's because
Yes.
sometimes what I think about too, and that's why I say when I take it, I don't just use what they give me, because sometimes I think about if we had the same thing going on, right? But we both needed a post about mental health and we needed it for Saturday, this weekend, and we needed it about self-care. Is it going to give you and I the same thing? And then are we posting the same exact caption? Right. So that's what I always tweak my stuff, because I don't want it to be exactly the same as someone else. So I put it in a little bit of Andrea language after I've
Yeah.
gotten the bones of it.
Yeah. 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 Because we've been, whether we're typing or different things, we've kind of been doing the job of the robot, right? Like,
Right.
that's why it's coming to eat the lunch of white collared work.
Yep.
Is that unfortunately, like, we were kind of thinking our work is very precious, like this LinkedIn post that I'm writing is so unique and different. And it's like, well, have you ever looked at the views that you get on a LinkedIn post? Like, within the first 3 days, that's probably 99% of your clicks.
What are
And
you
then
getting? Yep.
there's definitely a long tail, especially the way you do it, which is so smart. Just, keep doing it, keep doing the work, putting it out there. There's a critical mass and social proof. But, after 3 months, nobody is going back and looking at my LinkedIn posts, and I watch the analytics. So,
Right.
to free ourselves up to add our own voice to the generated content. I love that idea. That seems like a great use of time, is to put your voice on something. But I don't know. I've written LinkedIn posts with it and they've done just fine. It's functionally, I don't know how to argue with it.
It's knowing where you want to put your time too, right? Like if that's going to be more helpful for you and it gets up, then I tell people use it. You just need to know what to say to it to curate what it is that you need from it.
Yeah.
And even like with LinkedIn, I tell people too, like the marketing, it's very funny because I coach a few people on it and they're like, I'm constantly posting like my stuff from me on LinkedIn. I was like, but you have a business and you didn't even put your business on your business like profile, like the piece. I was like, you should have your own page on that. Like, so I restructure that for people. And then I tell them like, be in groups, like repost some of the stuff that you're posting personally or on your business page, get in those groups and just post it. I'm like, people need to see it more and know that you're active. And it's like easy clicks to just do that,
Yeah.
So it's just getting yourself out there more and getting in those groups and just being okay with like throwing it in there.
Throwing it in there.
People need to see it.
Yeah. And just testing it, just test it if you're afraid. There's a Marie Curie quote, like, now is not the time for fear. Now is the time for education, and that was a different world, different context. And it's the same thing. Like, if you're afraid of it, the thing you probably need to do is look at it more closely, give it a name and understand it. That's therapy for us. It's
right.
like
right.
The things that we're afraid of typically take a lot of our energy simply by us letting them drive fear. Yeah.
Right. Just their thoughts and the overthinking that we spend, and we spend so much time. When I tell that to people all the time, I'm like, you thought about this post for a week? You know how many people could have signed up for something in a week? I'm like, just put it out there. And I always tell people, if you feel that you have nothing to post, at all, post a picture of your coffee cup and ask people, take a poll, is it a coffee or tea type of day? Just get engagement. You are a human. You're allowed to drink coffee or tea. Just get engagement, right? It's about engaging the humans and starting conversations, and you never know what other content they're going to look for from you. Allow yourself to be human before anything else.
Yeah, that's it. And that may just be the starting point, or just get over the roadblock. I love to write, and there's a great book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
I feel like I heard of this. Okay.
It's possible I mentioned it last call because
you might have.
I talk about it all the time. But one thing Julia says to do is like a daily exercise, daily pages is what she calls it. And you just get out of bed, get your coffee or whatever, get into your writing space, and you just start writing the absolute trash garbage that comes out
Yep.
of your brain. And that's what it is for me. It's this stream of consciousness, bizarro, like disconnected ideas, and sometimes, to your coffee cup idea, which made me think of it, I just write, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm writing. I don't know why I'm writing. I don't know why I'm writing. And you just write that. And then over
Literally.
time, like that clears out and you get in, well, I get into this space of flow where you give your brain the space to actually share what it needs to say. And it's a beautiful thing some days, most days, because
Yep.
it's like anything else. It's like clearing your throat or anything else that creates flow of water or air. It's flow of thought that lets
Yep.
me get into my day.
I love that you said that because that's what I tell my clients all the time. When I tell them I have to pull this out now because just because you're saying it. So I know like the listeners can't see, but I created a book. It's called The Brain Dump Spot.
Oh
So
my
I sell
gosh.
this so that people, I'll show you like a clear page, but it's so people could just like throw their thoughts out and then organize it into 4 quadrants of their life, whatever they want to name them. So I created that and specifically so people literally, just like you said, throw thoughts. And if you don't know what they are, I don't know what to write. I swear to you, Steve, it's what I tell my clients all the time. Literally
Oh
put that on
my
paper.
gosh.
If you don't
That's
know, just put
amazing.
it on paper. Like just say, I don't know what to write. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, you can blame me in your little thing. I don't know what to write. Andrea told me I'm supposed to, but I don't know why I'm here. I said, I promise you the thoughts will flow. Because what happens is when your brain, when you're not putting it anywhere else, it's staying in here. And then it's all mumble jumble all up. And that's what gets us to be overwhelmed and to overthink. So just
That's
throwing
right.
it out. I love that you do that.
I love that you have that book. The brain. I would love to buy one of those and promote it at
Yeah,
the
I'll send
conference.
you.
I'm all about it. Yeah, in dream interpretation, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times the head is the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's akin to, for me, taking out the trash. Like,
Yep.
so, overnight, whatever happens, like you wake up, my head is filled with just garbage that needs to get out of the house in order to
Yep.
have a productive, organized life. And it's not negative or judgmental garbage. It's just simply that's the way the world operates, is that any machine that you can point to creates waste, you know.
Right.
um,
Right.
Cars have exhaust, etc.
Yep.
So it's the same with us, like one of the most beautiful machines is the mind that we hardly even
Yep.
understand, but it does the same thing and we have to just clear it out in different ways.
1,000%, 1,000%. And that's what I tell all of my clients, like, it's not, both my therapy clients and those I coach for even social media. I'm like, just throw your ideas somewhere. And I say, listen, if you don't like to write, I get it. We have phones. They have recording apps. Just throw your thoughts into the recording. Get it out. It needs to be out of here somewhere else. I don't
Mm.
care if you delete the voice recording, if you rip up whatever it is, it just needs to get out of your mind. I say it all the time. So I love that you said that. I love that you
Yeah,
said that.
I love that. Yeah, yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
It's been a delight to talk with you. I know people won't know this, but you're like working beyond business hours to make this happen. So I appreciate that on a
I enjoy
Friday.
talking to you. It's been fun. It's
It's
been
been a lot
fun.
of fun. Last question is, tell us like a bit of content or a book or a record or album or something, some kind of content, a podcast that you've listened to or that's on your radar,
Hmm. Book content.
or song.
Something. Hmm. I guess because my wedding is on my mind.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. So I'll go with that. I'll go like super corny. I'm telling you, I rarely ever talk personal on podcasts, but I think we've been doing so much for the wedding. It's really at the forefront of my mind.
This is a very
So
human example of living with authenticity right now.
yeah, yeah. So this isn't our wedding song, but I'll share it. Love on the Weekend by John Mayer. I've been playing that over and over again. It's not our wedding
Nice.
song. It was one that we were thinking about. But Love on the Weekend by John Mayer.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to
Thank you
go
so
pull it up
much.
on Spotify after this.
Yeah. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah. He's amazing. Oh, just to wrap, there's a clip of an interview with him about, oh man, I'm going to share it
Yeah.
in the notes of the show, because
Okay.
he's talking with somebody and I forget who he's talking with, but he has a guitar in his hand and it's an interview style. And he says, yes, I'm just kind of riffing with the guitar and playing
Hmm.
different chords and different licks and things. And then he says, but what I have to do is say, like, just absolutely start saying words
Mm.
and saying whatever kind of comes to mind. Like, I'm just doing this
See?
thing right now. And that's like, and he has to put it out as the way to allow the gates to open for his mind to write such
And
amazing
he's a
songs.
very talented artist. So there's something to that. He's such a talented artist.
Oh my
I think.
gosh. It artist
Yeah.
and a guitarist, which is also a form of his art, but it's just on another level. He's incredible. But yeah, that kind of like puts a bow on everything we're talking about here, which is like, you just have to let it go. We can't be
Hmm.
clinging to what we think our standard necessarily should be
Right.
for our content and all that. Just get it out there and then see what happens.
1,000%. A thousand
Cool.
percent. So I hope the listeners do that.
Totally. Well, Andrea, thank you for being on the show. It's been a
Yeah.
really fun conversation. It's flown by here the past 40 minutes, but I'd love to
Yeah.
have you on again and maybe have you on with Gabrielle next time, and
I
we'll
would
just,
love that. Would love it.
yes,
Yeah.
get
Thank you so much
really
for having
really
me. It's
into
always
it.
great speaking to you. I can't wait to see you. I'm very excited.
I can't wait to see you too, and it's just a few weeks away, but thanks again and have a good weekend.
Thanks. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.